Okay, so let's discuss how to do this meditation. So there are two meditations at least that Dr. Rantunga covered. So I'll start with first going through this diagram again, just as a refresher. So the basic things that you need to understand before you enter the meditation is how the flow of the thoughts of thinking. So as Dr. Rantunga explained in this diagram, on the top here we have in one corner the physical nutriment. So this is anything that you can associate with any form, whether it's a person, whether it's an object, whether it's a food, they're all valid in here. And then at the bottom we have the birth, and these two are considered the wheels of a vehicle. So if this diagram is like a car, these are the front two wheels. And there is a point when Dr. Rantunga explained of going in a cycle or starting the engine of the car. And that is basically going down this path here, having seen a physical nutriment of some form, some object, we get this sensual desire for it. And then through that, we go towards lust. And then eventually we see it come to existence and we have birth. So this loop here is the engine starting of this vehicle. Now, as well as that, we see the flow going from the left towards the right of the diagram as well. We have what is called the universal joint here, which is the coveting and greed, which is coming from the physical nutriment, having had contact of that, whether it's to our eye, ear, nose, or tongue, and then generating a feeling towards it. And the feeling is considered like a gearbox of the car. So whether it's a pleasurable feeling, a non-pleasurable feeling, or a neutral feeling. And that's basically like setting the different gears of the car, of how we are driving the vehicle. And then the contact, so this is where the object comes into contact with us, whether it's through eye, ear, nose, tongue, so forth. This is like the steering wheel. The contact is how we turn, whether we want more of it or less of it, and so forth. And then we have what is called the seats of the car, which is inside this body tie of misapprehension. And ourselves, as the driver of this car, effectively sits in here. So this is where the self is, and also where the other individuals we bring in are seated. And then towards the back, we have several wheels, as Dr. Rantunga explained, and they are these lying, harsh speech, frivolous talks, and slander. So the way this will work is once the engine is running and the loops are going ahead, this propeller shaft towards the center effectively sends power to these back wheels. And if one starts spinning, then it makes the others spin too. So basically, if you are lying, inside that will cause the harsh speech, frivolous speech, and slander to various degrees. Now, if we were to look at how this actually happens through following these arrows, we see, and this is also the short meditation that Dr. Rantunga explained, we put some sort of a physical nutriment. So take an example, now in your meditation, take an example of something that you find yourself associated with, that's quite close to you. So if it is, let's say, a food, we put your favorite food here, and we see how we have gotten the perception of beauty. Now, the food itself, if you leave it alone, it might, turn into something disgusting. And also we know that if we consume a food and spit it back out, it doesn't have the same quality at all. But we tend to have this wrong perception that there is something good about it. So in the case of the short eats or a cutlet, we see that and we think, yum, oh, that's good. And that is something that we should have more of. So we see this beauty. So in the meditation, think about how you see the beauty in something that's not really worth it. And then because we spin with it and because we contact it over and over again, we think, okay, I can have it. And there's a concept of permanency, that it exists. It's not something you just passed by. And with that permanency, we get the perception of pleasure. So if you saw something just zooming past by you, we don't tend to carry it any further. We saw it, it's gone now, therefore there's no pleasure from it. But if it's something you see over and over again, we get the concept of pleasure. Oh, look, I see it again. When you say if it's a bowl of food or whatever, you see it is there and you think of, okay, I can have it again, I can eat it again. Maybe it's a packet of biscuits and you see this, that there are more biscuits in the packet. So you get a sense of pleasure. If you see the empty packet, you don't get the sense of pleasure. So carrying with this sense of pleasure, having added the permanency, you get the perception of self. So if it's biscuits, I am the one going to eat the biscuits. So the biscuits are for me, or I can have it. And that the pleasurable feeling you create, that I exist for this pleasure. So that's how it goes from beauty, pleasure, to a self. And there was the example also of a mango, that we exist to eat the mango that Dr. Rantunga mentioned. So then, once we come to this perception of self, we make plans. So now it's going down to following this arrow here, to the bottom, where we have a plan to maintain this self, to maintain and to get more pleasure. So in terms of this mango example, we will go to work and earn money so we can buy more mangoes. Or whether it's let's say it was a food that came in a restaurant, we have the same concept going through here, and we say, all right, we are going to plan to go out to dinner on Saturday night, and we are going to go to that restaurant and we are going to eat that type of food, and these plans are in place. So if someone asks you, what are you doing this weekend? I said, well, we are going to this restaurant with so and so, and we are going to be having a good time. So that's how we make plans. It's not a plan on its own. It was built upon a certain physical nutriment, having gotten the perception of it being a good thing and there's a beauty in it, that we know where we think is going to be permanent, we have a pleasure, and that we are going to enjoy that pleasure, the sense of self, and therefore we have this plan. So in the meditation, you need to take an example and see how you internally with your conscience, how you made those steps, how your mind actually took these steps. In a day-to-day life, we don't think like this. We are running so fast, we forget how the thoughts are constructed. So in this meditation, Dr. Rantunga is showing you how our mind is working, the very, very small steps, things that happen on a nanosecond time scale. So when you first think, this weekend I'm going to go to do this particular activity or to go to this particular restaurant, underneath, all of these steps have actually occurred straight away before making those plans. So now that we are at the plan stage, what happens is we get a view theory clinging. In other words, this is what you want to do. You have a self, this is self theory clinging. So in other words, the self that we are going to have these plans, so you're not going to change them. This is the sense of self here, your own theory. And what we do as a result is we have these wheels, that is the lying, harsh speech, frivolous speech, and slander. So when we talk about things like lying, it's not your mundane version of lying, whereas you're saying something that you didn't see or something you didn't do. It's more like on a supramundane level, on a noble level. So when you say, I'm going on Saturday to this restaurant, now that could be a lie, because you never know whether you'll actually make it there or not. It might be you get sick, or maybe you can't make it on time. Maybe the restaurant will be closed. You never know. And this is something we've seen with coronavirus that happens very quickly. Some days we can travel, next day we can't. So there's nothing guaranteed that all your plans that people had to travel here and there can actually happen. So when someone said, oh, next weekend I'm going to this place, that became a lie. So whenever we have something outside the noble truth, the Four Noble Truths, it is a lie. And if there is a lie, if this wheel is spinning, then the other wheels are also spinning. But what we do is that we actually create those plans. We commit ourselves to these behaviors, and we have this sense of beauty reclining. So going back, having spun through here, coming back here to our views, that this is the case. We don't say, oh, it might happen, it might not happen. We say, no, it's definitely going to happen. And then through that again, we get down and return back to the physical nutriment. So effectively the path here is, we have this box here which is called appropriation. And appropriation is, I think the definition from the dictionary is that it is grasping features for exclusive use of for oneself, something like that. So basically it is grabbing these features and holding on to them for your own benefit. So now you have this view. Now if someone tells you to change your plans, you don't want to accept that. You're going to hold on to what you think and your opinion, and actually hold on to these things. And this is where we don't want to accept the truth. We want to live the lie that we are carrying here. And then that leads to, as it continues to build up, leads to obsession. So an obsession, I think, understand what it means. It's an addiction almost. And sometimes this obsession is not always with the physical nutriment itself. It's with this contact. So, for example, the Dr. Ranthunga gave the example of a young couple. When one of the partners died, the other partner, even though the body is not there, the physical nutriment is not there, the memories and that contact is still there. And that's what is spinning through here. So it could be, for example, a concept or the contact you had from a previous experience at a restaurant. You want to relive that, the vibe, the music or the food, whatever, all that. The nutriment itself may not be there right now, but you still have that contact, and it becomes an obsession. And this is a vicious cycle, because that again feeds into the beauty and the pleasure and the self, and it keeps on spinning. So this is how this vehicle is traveling. The vehicle is traveling all the time with different inputs through our senses. So what we want to do in the meditation is to, in the short meditation, is to take your object that is the best example for you, and then see how we have made these steps, how we have in our minds come to these steps, and how we had made these plans, and how those plans are feeding into these negative behaviors. These are the behaviors which is losing your virtue. So if you remember in the discourse, Dr. Ranthunga said there are four things that one can lose. One is objects like wealth and all that. Other one is your relatives, next of kin. The other things are your view and your virtue. So if you lose your wealth and material things, you're not going to go to hell animal realms for that, or if you lose your relatives. None of that is going to affect your going to hell. But if you were to lose your virtue and your views, then there is a very likely chance you will go to hell. So here we are looking at the virtue part. So in the meditation, once you come through and say, okay, for a certain person, for a certain food or a certain object, I have been taking these wrong views, and then coming to making these plans and conducting and not having any virtue, conducting these bad things, then you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it to be slandering someone, to be lying about something, to maintain whatever it is that you put up here, which was really a thing that will die eventually? Is it worth you going to hell and animal realm for this little thing here? So once you ask yourself that, at the state of meditation, you can come to a point where you say, well, no, it's not worth it. Now, you need to think you are meditating on this moment. You're not saying, I'm going to give up eating chocolate, let's say for argument's sake, forever from tomorrow onwards. That's not the point. It's at the present moment in your mind. If you see the chocolate come up, you don't say, oh, yum. You say, no, that's a lie. I don't want it now. I'm not going to crave towards it. I'm not going to say it is good when it is not good. In the here and now, in this second, when you're sitting, when you're meditating, you say no. It's not about planning for tomorrow or what you're going to feed the kids or what you're going to do when you're shopping. None of that. That's not the point. If you start thinking that way, you will lose your concentration. You want to think about how, let's say, a chocolate perceived the beauty, thought it was permanent, got the pleasure from it, and took it as mine, and was planning on eating it or buying more or whatever, and saying, I'm going to do these things. And there you say, it's not worth it. I'm not going to crave after it. I'm not going to take it as mine. And that's one meditation. And if you can do that well, it's really good. It's really effective. So at that point in your mind, you say stop, you say no, and you give up. It's not about what happens afterwards, because you never know what will happen afterwards. At this point in your mind, you make a determination with effort that you're not going to lie or slander or have frivolous speech or so forth. It depends on which one you pick, depends on your example. If your example here for physical nutriment was, let's say, some sort of a status, some sort of a promotion in your workplace, perhaps what you will be thinking about is frivolous speech, that you need to go and show off your work or something, or something about putting the other party down and winning a debate. Whatever it is, depends on what you have picked here as your example. But lying is an easy one, that because we are all doing that all the day by saying that I am so and so and I like so and so, I'm doing such and such thing. Because reality, we know that this is all a created sense of self. So that's the first meditation. The other meditation, going into a bit more detail, was actually looking at focusing here on these boxes, on how this wheel here is spinning. You put your example and you see the sensual desire arising, and you see how that is then leading to your delight. I think we talked about delight earlier, about the wanting to repeat something over and over again for it to re-exist, and then lust, and then recreating this cycle here, and then going through the perception of beauty and how that, together with the sense of permanency, is giving a sense of pleasure. And then with sense of pleasure, going into a sense of self. So this is taking it a bit more depth than the previous meditation. And then also going through these plans and then coming back and looking at how you have developed your clinging to the views of that I am so and so of self. And then going into also how we appropriate things, how we get the signs and features from the various things we see, and see how we are craving and how we are feeding this craving through the feelings, and possibly also going into an obsession. So looking at this in a much more detailed, if you can remember all the words, then that is something definitely you should do during this half an hour. You can do the first one, and then if there is time and you feel you remember everything, then you can go again with another example or the same example and go into a bit more depth in here. I can tell you one of my examples with this sutta was I took a time I went to a restaurant with some work colleagues, and it was a Thai restaurant. There was on the menu soft shell crab. So it's a favorite of mine, and when I saw soft shell crabs, I really liked this. So I took in my meditation that episode, that time. So I put a little soft shell crab, a cooked one, over here, and I went through how much I wanted it, how much I waited for it to arrive at the table. Now, we ordered as a group, and we were meant to share every dish that everybody else also ordered. So here I was waiting with the perception of beauty, the pleasure, the taste and the smells and all that, and having made it mine to consume and to enjoy. And that was my plan, to eat this soft shell crab. And now when the food arrived, everyone's ordered multiple dishes and we're sharing. So there was only about 4 or 5 pieces of soft shell crab on the dish. And while I didn't want to be the first one to grab it. Everyone's taking bits of all the other dishes as well. And I was really, really eager to get one of the soft shell crabs. So I was running. These wheels were running full on because there's no virtue here. Right now, I just want to eat this thing. And you can see I have also this adherence. So you're basically holding on to your plan, not giving up by any way. I'm thinking of eating it. And I saw in this meditation that the depth to which I had sunk into, so in other words, I have my self-theory clinging, my view clinging, and I have the craving, and I had an obsession. You know, that mouth-watering taste, you're eager to grab something and have it. And then I saw in the meditation, out of the blue, is what happens. I was thinking, what happened if I had died at that moment at that restaurant waiting to eat the soft shell crab? Then suddenly it was a blue sky with a yellow kind of sandy beach, and there was a black thing that was wandering around, and I realized that the black thing was a black snake. It was a beach snake. And I was wondering, why am I seeing this? And it took me a few minutes to understand what type of creature gets to eat crabs all the time. And a snake that lives on the beach, obviously. So that was a real shock to notice that, having gone through this meditation and seen when we have lost our virtue and the will, and we are stuck in this adherence stage of really, really wanting it, one can be born in either hell or in the animal realm. And that's what I saw in my meditation. So that's not to say everybody will start seeing things, but the point of the meditation is that you take an example where you really, really, really wanted something, whether it's a person, whether it's a status, whether it's a food, it doesn't matter. It's whatever is best applicable for you. So take that and meditate it. The other point I want to mention before starting the meditation is that you might have this question about, well, why would I be born in hell or animal realm if my consciousness doesn't want that? So Dr. Rantung explained that when we are reborn, it's not about the my consciousness. It's whatever the conditions are. And if you are craving lots of sensual items, sensual pleasures, the consciousness takes you to those places where they are more abundant. So in the cases of sensual desires, it's hell and animal realms where there is most of these things. So that's why it's not that somebody is dragging you there, but it's more that the consciousness as a stream will basically satisfy the conditions that it's been given. So I hope that all makes sense, and I hope you can first try the small meditation, taking an example here, going through the individual little orange boxes here, coming to plants, and then making the determination that it's not worth taking the risk to go to hell or animal realm in order to satisfy this minor thing here. And make that determination during the meditation that you will not do this right here, right now. In other words, in my example of soft shell crab, I will not lust after it. I will not crave it. Right here, right now, in this meditation, I don't want it. So it breaks down and it stops these wheels from spinning, because you're saying, no, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to take something that is not mine as mine. I'm not going to take something that is not permanent as permanent. And once you start determining that, you'll find that it will become a lot more, your meditation will deepen. And then if you can, go back and look at in more details how the physical nutriment feeds in, and this cycle here starts, and go in more detail of the terms of the sutta. And of course, the third meditation in here that I didn't touch on at all is going through the actual gatha that was in this sutta. Now, line by line, which is a lot more difficult, and you need to have some memorized the sutta to do that. But that's obviously something that doctor recommends you do as a final step if you have time and if you can remember it. Okay, so that's how to do this meditation. So now we will do this meditation in the next 30 minutes. Thank you.